So on the Ayin Bava and Aleph, the word Pshita, about 15 lines up from the bottom. So we had gone through a bunch of suggestions. We had said that the Mishnah that says Hitos as Ein Lavela Tarumas is talking about where one of the workers had hired other workers and misled them. We had a lot of different possibilities, a lot of permutations of what exactly he had assured them of and what they expected. Pshita. This is a hemshech. The Amalei Balabayas betlosa. If the Balabayas had said 3, va'azal iu Amalei ba'arba, and he went, meaning this hiring worker, the worker who misled everyone, and he told everyone 4. Va'amalei k'moshe amar Balabayas, but this time instead of saying yes, until now we've been talking about where the worker said whatever the hiring worker said, they said okay, we agree. They didn't say we agree. They made it. They had to make it complicated. They said we're agreeing like the Balabaya said. Good morning, Rafal. So we're at on Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, about 15 lines from the bottom. The word Pshita. So the Gemara just said. The Gemara says we're still talking about the case. Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, 15 lines from the bottom. So we're still talking about the case where a hiring worker had told other workers he had conveyed incorrectly conveyed the words of the Balabayas. And the Mishnah said, Ein lo lav ela terus. So I'm going to say now, Pshita yom le Balabayas b'tlasav, ozli yom le ba'arba. If the Balabayas had originally said, I'll pay you 3 zuzim, and he went and told him, no, he said that they're going to pay, Balabayas is going to pay 4. He lied to them. And they answered back, Balabayas, and they said this time, instead of saying like we had said before, that they just said yes, he said instead, I'm agreeing to what the Balabayas said, which in this case puts you into a problem because the Balabayas had really said 3, and this hiring agent had said 4. Zukmar said that in this case, where the normal amount that a person gets is 3, and he said, and the guy coming here to say 4 said 4, he certainly meant to say that I want the 4, because they know that the regular amount is 3, and he's asking for more. I mean, he's assuring them of more. Why would they agree to? They wouldn't expect that the Balabayas would have said 5. Why should they change anything from what he said? So even though they're saying Kamosha Amar Balabayas, they're obviously not saying where maybe the Balabayas said less, and that's what we're agreeing to. They're just saying that you said the Balabayas said 4, so that's what we're agreeing to. And then we'll have the whole discussion like we had earlier, as if they said yes to what he said, and then it's going to depend on all the circumstances that we had discussed. But what if it's reversed? The Balabayas has said 4, and now this guy came and said 3. So then it's possible that they're hoping that the Balabayas had said something different than this hiring agent. Again, like we said before, in the first case, in the case where it was the Balabayas said 3 and they said 4, it's going to depend. Did this guy in between, the hiring agent, did he agree that he's going to be the one to pay them? Then it's not going to be just tarumas. Is it going to be? Are they talking about a Balabayas who wouldn't have done it for less than extra? All those different questions that we had before. But now we have a different question. In the case where the Balabai said Ba'arba, and the hiring agent said 3. So, and they know that the regular amount is 3, but they might suspect that maybe the Balabais was willing to give more. Ba'amri Kamasha Amar Balabais. What happens in that case? Adi Buradi Deka Samchi. Are they saying that okay, we're Kamasha Amar Balabais, meaning you said that the Balabais said 3, we're believing you. It's saying we believe you that that's what the Balabais said. And as we've always said, in order for there to be an agreement, both parties have to agree. So in this case, they agreed to 3. They were makabel on themselves 3. So the Balabais Taka could only that's what they were, like we said before, Sava a couple, they were masking to get less than what he had offered. So the Balabai certainly is okay with that, and he'll just have to pay them 3 because they were masking to it. Oidilma, Adibur de Balabai Kasanti. No. This is exactly what they were concerned about. When they said Balabais, they thought, listen, you're offering us the standard amount. Maybe the Balabais is willing to offer us more. And we're not asking to take just 3. So that's the question. When someone says, Kamoisha Amar, when someone says, I'm telling you what, when Reuven comes and says, this is what Shimon said, and Levi says to Reuven, Kamoisha Amar, do we say he's going based on what Reuven said, or does it go based on what the original person said? Toshma. So I'll bring a raya. We had this Gemara, it's a confusing Gemara, but hopefully it will be, since it's the second time we had this already in Gittin, it won't be so bad. So we know that by a Isha, there are 2 kinds of, by a get of an Isha, there are 2 types of shluchim. There's a shliach for the Baal. The husband can appoint a shliach, and then the shliach brings the get to the Isha, and when he brings her the get, she's megureshes. You have a shliach Kabbalah, where the wife makes a shliach, and she sends the shliach to the husband, and then the husband hands it over to the shliach, and as soon as the husband hands it over to her, she's megureshes. There's also a third case, which is not going to come up over here, where they each send a shliach. You theoretically have that the Baal sends a shliach, and the Isha sends a shliach, and they meet somewhere in the middle, wherever they meet. When this one shliach, the husband shliach gives it over to the Isha shliach, that's when she's megureshes. So Zakhlima, Havali Giti, if a woman said to a shliach, go tell my husband to give me a get. So that means she's not saying, I want you to be a shliach Kabbalah. She's not saying, I want you to be my shliach. She's saying, go solicit to see if my husband is willing to make you a shliach halacha. Go ask my husband if maybe he'll make you a shliach to bring me the get. Ve'ishtecha amra hiskabaligiti, but instead of the shliach faithfully doing what she said and telling the husband that your wife would like you to send a get with me, and I should be the shliach halacha, he said instead that your wife asked me to be the shliach Kabbalah. So if you want to hand it over to me, you can hand it over. Now, if he just handed it over, that would be a problem, right? Because he's not a shliach Kabbalah of the Isha. But instead he said, take it as she had said. So we have a question here. Is what the husband saying, when he says Halach Kamasha Amra, is he saying, I am depending on what you said? You said my wife said you should be a shliach Kabbalah. So I'm handing it over to you as a shliach halacha, as a get to shliach Kabbalah, and it should take effect instantly. Or is he saying Halach Kamasha Amra, and he's saying whatever she said, and therefore, if it's whatever she said, then he's appointing him now to be his shliach halacha, and when he'll bring it to her, she'll be megureshes. Amar Rav Nachman or Rav Avu Amar Rav, afilu higia get liyada ain't megureshes. It's not going to be megureshes under any circumstances. Sham ina, we see from here, adibura dideka sama. It must be that he's being saimach on what the shliach said, because the shliach said it's a shliach. He's a shliach kabbalah, and he listened to the shliach, and he's saying, "Okay, I'm giving it to you, and you should be the shliach kabbalah." But he's not a shliach kabbalah because the woman never made him into a shliach kabbalah. So then it's not. He wasn't nasan biyada. If he was doing what she had actually said, what the woman had actually said, meaning he was now appointing this shliach to be a shliach halacha. So you don't need any shlichus from the isha. He's just saying, I'm concurring, I'm appointing you as a shliach in the way that she said. So now he's making him into a shliach. When he brings the get to her, she should be megureshes. So vice this from this, that adibura di dekasam, that when someone a shliach misrepresents what he was told, the person says kamasha amra, it means the words that I just heard you say, not what you said that she said, not what she actually said. Amra Ravashi, hachi hash. No, it's not a mishkerai. Now the Gemara is going to have a very interesting way of disproving the raya by first saying what could have been a raya had the case been different. So bishlama itma ibcha. Had the case been different, where hiskabaligiti, where the woman, rather than saying havaligiti, that you should go, you shliach, go and make yourself be appointed a shliach halacha, she had said actually she had appointed him a shliach kabbalah. The ishtacha amra, and then when the shliach went, he came and said, amra havaligiti, make me a shliach halacha, amar halach kamasha amra. And he had said, take it as she had said. And Rav Nachman Bar Avu had said on that, Amarav, get liyada megureshes. Had he concluded, this is all still a hypothetical. Had Rav Nachman said on that it would be megureshes when it reaches her, Alma adibura dida kasama. In that case, we would say it must be that we're being saimach when the husband said, go like she said, he means to say exactly that. And she had said, hiskabali giti, and he's saying, okay, you should be the shliach kabbalah, and itaka works. So you see that he was giving it to her the husband was giving it to the shliach as a husband giving it to the shliach kabbalah, and therefore she should be megureshes. I'm sorry, when it was given into the hand of the shliach, she becomes megureshes immediately. The shliach is a shliach kabbalah, like she had dictated, and that's what he went along with. Inami, mishigia get liyada megureshes, or if you would say that it reaches her, it's megureshes. Ama dibura dideka sama. In that case, it's the husband is depending on what the shliach represented that the wife had said, where he had said that he said havaligiti, that you should make me. The shliach told the husband, you make me into a shliach halacha, and that's what he did. He made him into a shliach halacha, and then when the shliach brings it back, he becomes he switched now. He's not a shliach kabbalah like the isha had said. He's now a shliach halacha for the husband, and when he brings it to her, she's megureshes. So that would all be, this would be an indicator. Elahasan, but the case that you actually described earlier, where it was the other way around, where the woman had said, Havaligiti, make yourself into a shliach halacha, and he changed it to iskabel. There's an entirely different reason why that doesn't work. why Rav Nachman said it's not Megureshes. And it has nothing to do with when it was given and what type of shliach he is. It has to do with Mishum the Akka Shliach L'Shlichusa L'Gamri. He did not want to do the shlichus. She had said, become a shliach halacha. The job of a shliach halacha is pretty significant. He has to get the get and bring it to her, and when he gives it to her, then she becomes megureshes. He said, I'm not really interested in doing that. I only want to be a shliach kabbalah. If I'm a shliach kabbalah, as soon as I receive the get from the husband, my job is over, and I don't even have to go back to her. So he was rejecting the shlichus that she had made him. So that's the reason why he's no longer her shliach, because he said, I don't want to be a shliach. So it's a chesaron in the shlichus from the perspective that the shliach is not willing to do the shlichus, as opposed to a chesaron in the shlichus because of trying to figure out which shlichus he was doing, what the husband intended to do. It doesn't make a difference what the husband intends to do if the shliach is not willing to do the shlichus. Okay, so that is the end. We just went off on this diversion of this pshita. We wanted to clarify what happens if the hiring agent misrepresented what the Balabas said in the opposite direction. But this was all to answer the original Gemara's question, all the way back in the beginning, from where the Mishnah had said, he told zeh, ein lo lovela tarumas. And we had said, he told zeh means bedafka that one employee had misled a different employee. One of them decided he's going to become the shopson and say, this is what the Balabai said. The one says now, it could be that this harnacha all the way at the beginning was wrong. It's not like we said that hito has to mean bedafka that one employee misled another employee. It could even be that the employee was chayzer on what he had originally agreed to do, or the balabayas was chayzer on the original agreement to hire, which is the way what the rest of the Mishnah was talking about. And the Gemara is going to bring a brisa that explains exactly what the Mishnah would have meant. Haitanu chazu nami hitokar later Tanya. Tanakama says someone who hired workers, hito as balabais, and the balabais, and they defrauded or misled the balabais. The balabais hito his son. Ein lahem zel tarumas. They know tarumas. So we're saying that it's either the employees defrauded the balabais or the balabais defrauded the employees, even though we use the lashon hito. So the Bryce is clearly saying hito could mean chayz. And Taisus explains, the Gemara doesn't really ever give the explanation of we had this whole problem. What is Inlam Zal Zal Tarumas? The Taisus explains, together with Rashi. Rashi is not as clear. Cautionary. The Kaimel and Kuramea, the Don Dinagami, Bagais Kama. Imken Mali Lehem Kapel Bottle. Why are we saying if the employees were defrauded, they were told to come to a job and they didn't come, as we're going to see later on in the Mishnah, and like we paskin back in Bava Kama, he was guarding them not to be able to get a job. So why is it only Ein Lahem Ela Tarumas? They could still go find another job. They're going to have to go work to find another job. So that's the tarumas that they'll have. And it's going to be the same thing for the balabayas, that if they don't show up, he'll find someone else to hire, or they'll find another job, whichever one it is. But it's just going to be tarumas because they're going to have extra work. That will be the simple explanation of the Mishnah. It means until now we were stuck because the lashon hito was mashma to us that there was an agent, and then we had the whole problem. If they were makabel on themselves, then that's what they agreed to. So what's the tarumas? And the other way around, he's not. All the different permutations that we discussed. Okay, so we already answered the question, but once we started saying over this brisa, we're going to complete the brisa, which will get us, as usual, into trouble. The medva mamur. When is this the case that there's that there's nothing other than tinus, that there's no monetary or financial penalty for misleading? That's only where the workers had not yet shown up at the job. They went out they didn't go to the job site. If the schleppers, the donkey drivers, went out to the field with the expectation that they're going to have a job for the day of schlepping tvua, and there was no tvua. Or workers came, guys, to work the fields, and they found that the whole field is wet and it was unable to be worked on. Then in that case, they already came there. It's too late for them to find another job because they already went out to the field. It's not early in the morning. They could go find another job. So then he has to pay them. The Gemara says, and so the Brisa says, the Brisa says, Noisan and Schar Mishalim, but then the Brisa immediately qualifies what it says, Noisan Schar Mishalim, Aval Eidam HaBaton LeBarekin, or Oisem Lach Al Yoshibat. However, you have to take into account that these guys, Lamaisa, they showed up and they didn't get to have any work to do. So the Balabais has to pay them. However, like we've had at Legabe in other contexts, right, where somebody was we had Legabe Nezikin, if someone was unable to work, we said we don't pay him as if he had worked. We paid him how much a person would be willing to take that job if he wouldn't have to work at it. So the same thing over here. We're going to reduce. We're going to say, let's say like we've been talking till now that the standard pay for a menial laborer is 3 zuzim for the day. So if you go to a menial laborer and you say, listen, you've got a job for 3 zuzim, how much would you take, or how much would you pay me if you could paid for the day but not have to work? That means there's a way you can evaluate how much a person would be willing to take less. He needs to get money to live on, but certainly more pleasurable not to work. So how much would you be willing to deduct? What's the least you would take to just stay and not do anything as opposed to actually showing up for your job? And that's the amount that he has to pay him. The amount that a person would, a menial laborer would be willing to give up from his pay. You take that off of the amount, and that's, let's say, normally you go to a menial laborer, that's 3 zuzim, and you say, how much is it worth it for you not to work? And he'll say, well, I'll take off a quarter of a zuz, but I need 2 3/4 zuzim I need to support my family. So that's the amount that he would have to pay. This is all that the worker had not started his malach. This Tanakama holds if the worker started working, you have to evaluate what he did. It means even if now we're switching now to where the worker is the one who is backing out. And if I'm sorry, is that what it's talking about? Yeah. Right. He left before they were. But if they had started, we have to figure out how much, right? How much they had already done.
What Rashi saying is a Rishikoi, but has to parish mili the schiras, but has to parish mili the kablanas. You're talking about where it's it's not by the day, but it's by the job.
Yeah, I mean Rashi does clarify that. I was sort of eliding that point. It doesn't make a difference. The din of kablanas and schiras is the same as far as what the halacha is. Rashi just pointing out that that's the case over here. I don't think there's an afkamina about how they're going to be treated but now we're talking about a case of kablanus, and that's the way Rashi explains it. Yeah, where's the Rashi? Yeah,
Because
I'm looking
Shalei
for the Rashi.
sounds like, in other words, that the
Which Rashi are you talking about?
It's the last word on the line, but like about 6 lines down. Because
It's Chilu b'melacha.
it seems like in this case, we're talking about with
Correct.
them.
Aresha koy. V'ad hashta parish midi d'schus. V'hashta parish midi kablanos, where they were given a certain amount of money to do a specific job. I don't think it. I think it just. I'm not sure why Rashi felt it was necessary to say that. I know that they talk about this.
Because it looks like from Shalei Chilu b'melacha, I would assume Aval Chilu b'melacha means that the employer reneged, not the employees.
Right. We are talking about shit with the employer reneged.
Oh, I thought you said, all right.
It goes again. It's like kabbalanus or schiris, or whether they reneged or he reneged. I think it's the same. At least according to the Tanakama, in either case, it's the same thing. I believe so. The medram mishlei skilu b'melacha. The skilu b'melacha. Let's say we're talking about kabbalanus. So he said, "I'm going to pay you a certain amount," which we'll give an example of in a second. If they already had started, shamlahem masha asu. We figure out what they did. Ketzad, how does that work? Kiblu kama liksa b'shnei slime. So this is why Rashi said it's talking about kablanus, where they said we're going to cut this amount of wheat for shnei slime. Well, if they were just stam workers, he would have just said we're going to work for the day for shnei slime. Katru, so shnei slime. Let's just first of all do a little bit of currency. Shnei slime is each seller is 4 zuzim, I believe, and each 2 zuzim is 1 dinar. So he agreed to pay them essentially 4 zuzim for the day. I think that's right. And katru chatzia, they came to half a day, ve'inichu chatzia. And then we're switching it around. Now we're talking about the originally we talked about that the balabais, like you said, was the one reneged, but now in the exact actual case, we're giving where the employees were the ones who decided not to show up for half the day. Bagad larig b'shnei slayim, or this is very clearly an example of a kablanus. He gave him a bagad to weave for shnei slayim, argu chatzia v'nichu chatzia. So what do you do? Shamal and masha asu. We evaluate how much they did. Hayafa shisha dinrin, even if what now again, I'm sorry, I said zuzim, it's dinrin. It's 4 dinrim in a cell. So he had agreed to pay 2 slayim, which is 8 dinrim. But now what happened is it's an extra seller more for that. The price had gone up. It originally been 2 slayim for the work, and now it's 3 slayim. So 3 slayim is 12 dinrim. And now the work that they did is worth, at the end of the day, at the time that they quit, the work that they did is worth 6 dinrim. So that means the work that's still left to be done is also for 6 dinrim, or 1.5 seller. So noisan lehen seller, they still get a seller. Even though they reneged, it's not like what we saw in the Mishnah. We don't say Yad, the one who was defrauded is Yad el Halyana, but rather we say that they agreed to work for 2 slayim, and they did half the job, so they get their half of the job. Sagt the Gemara, or they have the option if they would like, they can continue and finish it and get 2 slayim. The Gemara is going to explain later what is the chiddush of this. Obviously, if they're willing to work under the original agreement, they'll get what they originally were promised. The im shakel sela, noisim lahem sela. And if they took a sela, then then he gives them a sela. This is again the same thing that we had just said before, and the Gemara is going to ask, what is the chiddush? We just said that if the workers did a sela's worth of work according to the original agreement, they get their original agreement. They get the half, the pro rata amount of what they had done. So that's the Tanakama. The Tanakama of this brisa is chaylik on our Mishnah. And he says there's no yada al yaina for the person who was defrauded, and they get paid a pro rata portion of what they had originally agreed to do. He says, like our Mishnah had said, we have to evaluate how much is still left to be done. If what they did is worth, they did half, and what they did is worth 6 dinner, which is meaning a new higher amount of 12, which means that there's another 6 dinner of work to be done, and they're leaving the owner holding the bag. He had originally agreed to pay 8 dinner, or two sellers, which is 8 dinner, and now since they're leaving halfway, he's going to have to put out 6. So it's going to cost them a total of 10 to finish the work. Noisin lahem shekel. He has a choice. He can give them a shekel. A shekel is 2 dinrin. So that leaves him, from his original agreement to pay 8, he has 6 left. He has enough left to pay someone to finish the work. Or these workers have the option, instead of just getting a shekel or 2 dinrin, they could finish the work and get paid 8 dinrin. And if if the amount, it's not in shekel seller, even though, is that what the gross is? Yeah, I'm not sure why the grow would change this, but im seller, and if it's worth a seller, if it's not, if the price hasn't gone up, and the work that's left to be done is a seller, then he only has to give them a seller because it's still, now it's equal. Even if it's yad el tachtaina, but if it still remains the same, at the same amount, he gives a seller. All of this that we've just discussed, this machlokes, the Tanakama of Daisa, is when we're talking about something that the price has gone up or down, but it's not a davar avud that if you wait to find someone, it's going to be more costly. Avud davar avud, like the cases of our Mishnah with a kala or a mace, where he's going to have to bear a loss. He's not going to be the kala's not going to be able to have her chasana with the nice wood, or the fur is not going to be able to go forward on time. So he could hire someone, like we said in the Mishnah, even on an excessive amount, even overpay someone not to go in great in order to get it done on time. By matan, or he can fool them. Kate said matan. What does it mean to fool them? I agreed to pay you a seller. Bo tlustein. Go come and do the work, and I'll pay you double. And the Rishonim say that he doesn't have to pay them. He could fool them. If they're willing to come, he could say, listen, I just agreed to pay you extra because you were backing out on our original agreement. But I don't have to follow through on this. My original agreement is still in force, and I just convinced you to do what you originally had contracted to do. Bad kama, how much extra can he pay someone to replace them? As much as 40 or 50 zuz, a huge amount. You can even overpay many times the original agreement.
Overpay or overpromise?
No, this is talking about, there are 2 possibilities. He could either overpromise and get the original workers to do it, or he could overpay other workers and then go back to his original workers and say, you have to make up what I had to pay extra. Where it says, again, another limitation. all of this is when there's no other poilim to hire. And the worker who was backing out said, "Listen, I'm not willing to do it. You go ahead and get from these workers that are available." In that case, all he has is tarubus. Tani Tam Kameder of the Rav. Noisel hen schar mishal. So we're going back all the way. This is all one long price. So going back to what we had said at the beginning, that we said if it's ito, zeh meaning they were chayzer, that was a case where you can get other workers to come and do it. We say noisel hen schar mishal. Amalei, so he said back to him, Chavivi Amar, I would have only restricted it that you only pay kapayel batal, not ke shalom. Noislam schar mishalom. But I'm noislam schar mishalom. Back to Gemara. V'alok tani ein adayim haba ton lahaba reikim. Oisam lach liyosher batal. So the Gemara says, what is he saying that Chavivi, my uncle Rav Chia, would have objected to your quoting this brisa that he gets schar mishalom? The brisa itself said that you don't get the full amount; they only get like a yoshev batal, how much a person would be willing to do the job, but to get paid for a job without working. So the brisa made the same qualification that you're saying he would have argued on the brisa. So what happened was, as sometimes happens, sometimes we've noticed this tendency that he was saying the brisa, and he said and immediately Rav jumped in and said, "But what it should be sheyeshev batal?" He said, "Hold on a second. That's what the brisa itself says." He didn't give him a chance to finish what he was saying. That's one version. Itaka heard Rav hold the whole brisa. This is what he objected. Habibi Amar, my uncle Rav Chia said, I wouldn't have given them anything. But Amr kapayel batal, and you said kapayel batal. What do you mean? How could he object to what was quoted b'shem brisa? Rav wasn't being chaylik on the brisa. Like kasha. Now we talk about two different cases. That which Rav said that I wouldn't have given anything. That was talking about in a case where he had gone with the workers to assess the property the night before, and they saw that this was we'll often be talking about, let's say, a field that got wet and it wasn't able to be worked. And they had seen that it was what kind of field it was. It's a field that some days it rains and some days and you can't work. So the Payalin had accepted upon themselves they were not saying that there's actually going to be work. They knew that there was a possibility it would be impossible to work. So therefore, the employer has no responsibility. But our brisa that said that he does have to pay, that's where the workers had not gotten a chance to look at the field. He said, I have a job for you, and they accepted it, and they had no way of knowing that there was a potential that it wouldn't be available. So maybe if they would have known, if he would have told them, there's a 25% chance that it's going to rain and become unavailable, they would have found a job, working in a bakery. Someone who hires workers to dig a ditch. And water comes and fills up the ditch and makes it impossible to work on. If these workers had checked out the ditch and seen what the work was exactly from the day before, say the Payalin, then it's the worker's own fault. They should have realized the possibility they might not be able to work. But if they didn't, say the balabais, then it's the loss of the balabais. And he pays kapayel batal. Are you in the shul now?
No, I'm home.
So do you need if let me know when you need to run out, and I'll stop. I don't want to make you late for davening.
About 7:02.
Okay, so you let me know when you it's 7:01 now, right?
Yeah,
So
it's about now. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll stop here. we'll stop here and we'll continue on Motzei Shabbos.
All right, everyone, have a
Okay,
great
shkoyach,
Shabbos.
good Shabbos.
Thank you so
Shabbos.
much. Have a good Shabbos.